Tim, is this the next step in our social evolution? Would I be too bold to say that you're asking us to take an evolutionary step in how we view gender?
Well, that is my intention. That is my intention, is to affect a fundamental shift in the entire belief system with regard to gender, with regard to man and woman. Next step in our social evolution. So what does that mean? It means that rather than a pendulum swinging back and forth endlessly, where we can go back and forth, that maybe men have the power, women are the victims, or maybe women have the power and men have the victims, and rather than going back and forth with this forever. What I'm suggesting is that the future of gender politics is to understand that it all balances out, and that belief system is sustainable, that it holds up under any and all logical assault. It doesn't require any kind of emotional gyrations to sustain. It sustains itself. If it all balances out becomes the default position, if the burden of proof falls upon those who do not see balance, Glenn is on the phone. I say that for millennia, we have believed that men have the power and women are the victims. There's many reasons for that. It's a very deep subject. But what I want to call attention to right now is that there's a growing masculist position, especially among young men. They're brought up in single mother families. They go off to a school system that is extremely female centric and female focused, and they've been getting the message that there's something very wrong with men and masculinity. And then they go to some website like The Spearhead or A Voice for Men, and they get a quick education in all the ways in which women have power and men are victims. And there's much to sustain that. That position is not crazy. The social stats indicate that men suffer comparison with women in virtually every measure of well-being. Now, the males, young men, absorb this, and they're hopping mad. They've come to believe that the world is comprised of female power and male victimization. So what we're looking at is this pendulum. But worse than that, what we're also looking at is a potential for kind of war. Like I said before, the battle of the sexes has been going on for millennia. But what we're looking at currently is something a little bit more like a war between the sexes. So, I'm going to make an appeal. I'm going to offer a call out to intellectuals, to teachers, to judges, to legislators, to men and women of influence. What if we skip the pendulum and go directly to the only truly sustainable model of gender, that it all balances out? We come to understand that it all balances out, we can avert war between the sexes. I guarantee you that young men today are very angry. I frequent these websites. I know the rhetoric that they're writing. I know how volatile, how angry, how hateful even the postings tend to be. I can see the writing on the wall of a real possibility of men, not just a few, but vast numbers perhaps, that may act out of this rage, this victim place, this place of wanting vengeance. I beseech those who are broad-minded enough to grasp that these two sides really equal each other. And in coming to understand this balance, we are approaching a gender paradigm that is far deeper in quantity and quality of truth than we've ever known before. We're looking at a gender paradigm that is mature, that is wise, that is compassionate. Why is it compassionate? Because the only way to come to understand this balance is to understand both sides, and with that understanding comes empathy. When we understand this balance, we become balanced. Because the only real overarching imbalance in the gender system is the gender belief system. Essentially, it's feminism. What we need to come to understand is that while feminism is, we can be grateful for feminism for getting the ball rolling, for politicizing the whole concept of gender, for getting this dialogue going. Feminism is invaluable for that. And in the big picture, feminism is essentially femalism. It's not an egalitarian approach. It is not an unbiased way of proceeding. Clearly, if we are seeking fairness and equality, we will want to do so under a gender-neutral banner, which I believe very clearly femalism is not.
And what you, if I could interrupt you,
Yeah.
to say, and what you're seeing in the writing on the wall, as you put it, is a rise in masculism that maybe is equally maybe helpful but destructive because it's not. So to avert that, I believe this is our next evolutionary step.
Yeah, what I envision is what I will call a conscious masculist movement. It is conscious essentially because it is conscious of the validity of its own equal opposite, namely feminism. It is conscious because it understands the game that it is playing, which is essentially a sort of battle of rhetoric, not a battle between men and women, but just a battle of rhetoric of it. And it understands that its goal is simply to balance out the belief system. And having done that, both feminism and masculism are best phased out in favor of what I will call equalism, a gender-neutral gender politics.
Well, very good then. And then I think that's a good wrap up to this section of discussing the book, which is endlessly delves into not only the four areas you talked about,
Yeah.
but the implications of those and historical references for that. For at this time, I think we had a good overview. I want to thank you for your time, and hope to have you back with us again.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you much.